Hello people of the world! It's that time again to look at the characters of the Illusion. This time it's the keen strategist and self-designated monochrome locator of the travel club, Daigo Tsychiya. For those who don't know what this random stranger on the internet is talking about, The Illusion is a webcomic that I've been working on for several years now. It's currently being published online webtoon and follows the travel club, a group of students whose main goal is to take out the monochrome. These are emotionless creatures who can shapeshift, and the travel club have to use the strength of mood rings that hold the power of their emotions to take them out. For those who need more context, I do have a much older video which is an introduction to the comic, the characters and its plot, which I'll link in the description. You know, for those who want to hear me talk more about my hyperfixation on my own series. For those who just want to hear me talk about Daigo specifically though, stick around. It's time to learn more about him. Let's start where we should by giving a quick overview of his character. His name is Daigo Tsychiya. He's 16 years old and a classmate of the main character Emmy, who he's tried to befriend since she's transferred into Yugen. He's also very skilled with all sorts of technology and is a die-hard fan of sci-fi media, especially mecha hackers. Having taken care of his sister from a young age and also being a member of the student council, he does feel a sense of responsibility with almost everything that he does. His birthday is May 4th, and yes, I purposely did make it Star Wars Day because he'd love it if he ever saw it. Though of course his biggest obsession is Mecha Hackers, which is an in-universe comic turned show, and it inspires him a lot. He seems to think that the characters in it look like the rest of the travel club, but this is really all just a coincidence. I mean, it really is a coincidence. There isn't necessarily any deeper meaning to it, but Daigo sees it, and yeah, I suppose I do as well. Unlike Emmy and Aoi, he isn't a ring bearer, and unlike Maya, he doesn't have some sort of unique power, so naturally this ends up being a pretty big part of his character. He's the only member of the travel club who can't directly fight the monochrome in some way, but this is something he has to come to terms with throughout the story. Although he does have a trick of his own. It's a computer program which he made over the course of a single weekend called the Filter. This has the ability to track monochrome within a short distance away, and it means that the group know when a monochrome is nearby even when they shift. This means they can carry out a plan of attack once they know where the monochrome are. The filter also lets him perform a skill which he's called Override. This lets him change the monochrome's movements remotely when these little devices which look like pocket watches called synths are attached to them. Even so, he still feels difficulty in being able to support the travel club, which is why his biggest hope is to help the group and other people. On one hand, this is admirable, but it also brings out a pretty big character flaw of his. He doesn't really look out for himself at all. He just thinks that by taking on a lot it's beneficial for him, but he doesn't exactly realise that just because it's giving him experience, it's not lightening the loads that he keeps trying to place on his shoulders. Regardless, he takes on as much as he can because he really feels like that's how he'll get a place to belong. His biggest fear is not having a place that he can be, which, yeah, this boy is a little broken. I think we need to lighten the mood a little and laugh through the pain, so before we go any further, it's time for In a Nutshell. Here's an audio clip which I'm pretty sure sums up Daigo best, filled with all the tired energy that he always carries.
Apparently, some people go to bed and just sleep. They don't plot a 7-book epic fantasy series, or softly broil in existential dread, or replay every mistake they ever made, and then they wake up refreshed. It sounds a bit fake.
The first rendition of Daigo I created is what I like to call I was too scared to draw guys Daigo, which is exactly like it sounds. My art style definitely suits drawing females more, and especially in my early days, it really didn't lend itself to drawing guys well, hence why he looked like this. I know it's pretty terrible, but I also knew I wanted to have a main male character to balance the cast a little. But since I really didn't like how I drew him, I ended up not drawing Daigo for a long time compared to the others. I also steered away from adding any other male members of the cast, and added with the fact that I didn't draw Daigo for a while, I got pretty out of practice. Probably why there are a lot less drawings of him compared to the others and why he just still looks so rough. Another reason why he looks as awful as he does here isn't just because I used a typical schoolboy uniform for him, but it's because of these stupid old hairstyles. Daigo has had many hairstylists and has gone through the most hair changes of any characters. Although I've been okay with most of them, and especially the most recent spiked hair at the back change, the hair I gave him when I first started drawing, Even if I didn't know how to draw at that time, yeah, these are criminally offensive. I did begin to become more confident in drawing him though, and ever since I did draw him more, his design hasn't changed quite as much as some other characters have. Through his development, he's had multiple potential design elements that I like and have chosen to keep, or maybe not to keep. I've always enjoyed the Tetris hoodie in his casual design, and he also always has gloves, which has been a staple for quite a while. But the one part of his style which has always translated is his hat, which, to be honest, I'm so glad it has. I feel like this gives him a lot of character, but it also gives me something on his design which I can alter depending on his mood, similar to how I can use the mood rings to indicate how the ring bearers are feeling. One of the other few parts that has stuck with him is his name, Daigo, but his last name used to be Shoji, which I used for quite a long time, which means that there is still some illusion content out there that uses this old name. The same goes for his sister and for all the cast whose last names I changed, and unless I decide to change them again in 5 years' time, you can expect those to be the names that I actually stick to. Daigo's longer development process is also why I didn't have his character or place in the story set for quite some time. So he ended up being one of, if not the last character I decided on the story for. Still though, I think that it was worth the time it took. Daigo's personality is fairly consistent, and in the story, I'd say he's the most enthusiastic of the group. Although Emi is the leader, Daigo is the one who does the most organising for the travel club, especially because he's wanted to always get wrapped up in something like this. It not only gives him a way to help people like he wants to, but it's also a situation where he can use his experience of watching shows and reading comics and put it to use. He just never thought that encountering something like shapeshifters could actually be possible. He's also the most eager to find his place in the club, especially because of how alienated he feels amongst other people. On the surface, he's got it great. He can do amazing things, so he's able to help a lot of people. But this has left him not really having a sense of personal direction, and he's actually had a lot of trouble fitting in or having any sort of active roles. The best way I can describe this is that he feels like he's viewing things from beyond a screen, always trying to be a part of the story that he sees on the other side. Daigo does really care for Emi, but his care does create a bit of frustration from him sometimes, since he can tell that she's shutting herself off on purpose. It's been easier for him to tell this than others, since he's sat next to her in class the whole time, but it's only when working together with Emi in the travel club that he begins to truly understand her. By seeing how she works against the monochrome, he sees what kind of person she really is, and hence, he's actually able to help her in the ways that he wanted to all along. Out of all the travel club's members, Daigo's definitely the one who lets Aoi do her thing the most out of all of them. I think in a roundabout way, he sees a bit of himself in her. They both work hard to find a place in the world without being given one, although they do this in very different ways. This means Daigo doesn't always agree with what she does, but he also knows very well that if you can't be yourself, it can be very damaging to you, so he wants Aoi to find a place in the world just like he wants the same for himself. He also builds a fast friendship with Maya, considering that neither of them are ring bearers, making them both feel uncertain about their place within the group. Although Maya knows what her reasons are for being in the travel club whilst Daigo doesn't, I think she and Daigo can still sympathise with one another because they both feel like they have to make Aoi and Emi do much of the work. Maya doesn't seem aware of just how much he feels this way though, because he doesn't want the others to be able to tell just how what place he actually feels. Otome on the other hand is able to see through him pretty easily. They both do find common ground with one another, since both of them are studious and are very passionate about their interests. But the reason they don't get on quite as well as some of the other members do is because of how perceptive Otome is. She seems to be able to tell better than anyone that Daigo is actively hiding how out of place and powerless he feels compared to the others. Let's just say by the time she joins, you can expect to see her tear into his emotional problems, for better or for worse. Although the travel club is important to him, Terumi is as well, and he takes looking after her pretty seriously. Though Daigo is the type to do many jobs at once, I would say Terumi is his main concern. Since his parents spend most of their time in other countries, he's the main one that has to look after her and make sure she's okay. Although his other family does come around every now and then, he really is the one that does the most of the work. He does have a big contrast with his sister though, in the way that, while she knows what she wants to do, she needs to build up her skills. Daigo, on the other hand, has all the skills and talent he could ever need, but he doesn't really know what to do with it other than just jumping into action whenever and wherever he can. In this sense, Terumi inspires Daigo quite a lot, and he supports her while she goes after her goals and ambitions, but this has also left him not a lot of time to focus on his own. Daigo trusts the master the most out of all the members of the travel club, especially since he sees how much that they help the travel club out. The master definitely appreciates this trust since it's coming from the person who has the option to back out of the travel club, hence why they give him a few helping hands like providing the monochrome energy for him to be actually able to make the filter. The main thing that Daigo needs to learn is that just because he's in a different position to the other characters and he can't do as much against the monochrome, he's not any less important. He's always thought he needs to do so many things to be as important as the people around him, but since he really doesn't look back on all he's done, he ends up thinking he's not having any impact at all. Eventually he will realise he's done far more than he thinks, but he's got quite a few more sleepless nights before he gets there. Until then though, this is where I'll leave this character introduction. I'm glad I wrote it together with Terumi's because they almost work hand in hand and they've both been very fun to write. I only hope you've enjoyed them too. You can look forward to seeing more of Daigo in the comic itself. Until next time, people of the world. You know, you can tell that Daigo really wanted to be the main character, because in his introduction in chapter 1, he sits by the window seat.